The foldable smartphone market has been slowly picking up steam in recent years, with Samsung driving flexible phones into mainstream attention. Outside of China, it has pretty much had its way with everything, with few competitors offering alternatives to its Z Fold and Z Flip lines. That began to change in 2022, when Motorola first and Oppo now arrived with very different takes on flexible form factors. We got our hands on Oppo's first clamshell foldable, the Find N2 Flip, to see if it has what it takes to compete in this market. One of the great things about the foldable phone market is that, due to different approaches to displays and hinges, each flip phone we've seen thus far is quite unique. We'll go over the cover display in more detail shortly, but because it's on the front cover, you're unlikely to confuse this with any other foldable clamshell smartphone. With the screen removed, a black rectangle occupies nearly half of the front cover's available surface area, with two vertically stacked protruding camera lenses near the edge. When viewed from the sides, it's easy to confuse it with the Galaxy Z Flip, especially if you're looking at the purple unit we're testing. It has light purple glass on the front and back, with polished purple aluminum edges all around. The glossy glass on the outside makes it feel quite slippery, but there is an alternative, Astral Black. That version has the same nano-textured matte glass as other phones from Oppo and OnePlus that we've seen recently, so if you're worried about your phone slipping off things, out of pockets, or out of your hand, that's the one to get. The hinge and folding screen on the inside are two crucial design elements. When the phone is closed, the screen curves in a water drop shape, similar to Motorola and Huawei models, which helps ensure that the single line across the screen is not subjected to all of the pressure, and thus does not create a distinct crease. Under the right lighting and at the right angle, this titled invisible crease is difficult to see. It's not as visually distracting as Samsung's, and you can't feel it under your finger as clearly either. Another advantage of this design is that when the phone is closed, there is barely any space between the two sides of the phone's display. There is no gap, so there is no place for dust and pocket debris to collect, which is another benefit of Samsung's efforts. As useful as that is, Oppo has not gone to the trouble of testing the Find N2 Flip for water or dust resistance, so it cannot officially claim to be water or dust resistant. It's a shame, because the thoughtful design is impressive for the company's first clamshell attempt. In terms of the hinge and flexible display's durability, Oppo claims it has been certified to withstand 400,000 open and shut actions, which should provide some assurance that the phone will last a typical phone lifetime. It's worth noting that these tests are performed in robotic and sterile environments and do not account for everyday real-world usage, and because the screen is not as rigid and durable as standard smartphones by definition, you still need to take care of it a little more than regular phones. We haven't had much time with it, but having used the Z Flip and other devices, one thing that stands out is that the hinge could be stiffer. It doesn't hold the display as securely as the hinge on the Galaxy Z Flip, and it doesn't take much to get the display back into its completely straight position. You must be very precise and deliberate if you want it to hold an angle. Oppo's focus with displays is very much on removing the compromises that are frequently associated with the foldable clamshell smartphone. Its cover display is essentially a miniaturized smartphone display. That is, it has a vertically oriented rectangle display with an aspect ratio that is nearly identical to that of a traditional smartphone. The idea is to provide you with a more practical screen that allows you to read more lines of text, allowing it to hold more data than Samsung's Z Flip 4 or Huawei's P50 Pocket. That means you'll be able to read through your notifications list more easily and see more data on the cover screen widgets. A detailed weather widget, calendar events, notifications, a voice recorder, timers, and even an interface for controlling connected earphones or headphones are among the features. As an example, with our OnePlus Buds Pro 2, the cover screen provided quick and easy access to the noise cancellation controls as well as the battery levels for both buds and the charging case. Of course, you can use the cover screen as a monitor to take selfies with the main cameras. Oppo's designers even had time to add a touch of whimsy to the cover screen software, serving up interactive pets as an alternative to your standard wallpaper. You'll find your pet eating, listening to music, playing, sleeping, or reading depending on the time of day and what you're doing at the time if you choose one of the animals: cat, dog, hamster, budgie, or rabbit. For example, while we were listening to music through our buds, our pet cat was on screen with earbuds in its own Find N2 Flip listening to music. The internal screen is of the standard type for a flip phone. Oppo's clamshell features a large 6.8-inch AMOLED panel with a 21:9 aspect ratio that hits all the right notes for a flagship screen. These include a peak brightness of 1600 nits, refresh rates of up to 120 Hz, and support for HDR10+ content. The refresh rates are also adaptive, with LTPO technology allowing them to quickly adjust down to 1 Hz when needed, or up to 120 Hz when the content demands it. It's a vibrant panel with appealing, saturated colors and crisp details. It's too early in our journey to give our full thoughts on the performance and battery, as we've only had it for a day, but there's plenty here to keep the phone feeling like a flagship device. The chipset inside is made by a less well-known brand than Qualcomm, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's a lower quality chipset than the flagship Snapdragon. Oppo collaborated with MediaTek on this one, and chose the Dimensity 9000 Plus platform, which is also found in the incredibly powerful ROG Phone 6D Ultimate. It has a slightly slower clock speed, but it is more than capable of providing a smooth, fast, and responsive experience. Especially when combined with the internal 120 Hz primary display. Early indications support this prediction. The interface appears to glide smoothly beneath the fingertips, and apps and data appear to load quickly. When it comes to the internals, we're most interested in the battery, which is somewhat unusual. According to Oppo, the entire internal design was tweaked and optimized in order to fit an almost proper-sized battery inside the Flip phone. As a result, the Flip has a much larger capacity than the Galaxy Z Flip, Moto Razr 2022, or Huawei P50 Pocket. At 4,300 mAh, it's the largest battery we've seen in a phone of this size, and if Oppo's previous optimizations are any indication, this should translate into excellent battery life from the Find N2 Flip. As with everything, we'll need to spend more time with it to determine how much better it is than its main rival. Once empty, it quickly recharges using Oppo's SuperVOC flash charging technology. Oppo claims that this 44-watt charging will provide a full charge in about an hour. If there's one area where we have reservations about the Find N2 Flip, it's the camera. The primary camera specifications are already familiar to us, and they correspond to what Oppo and OnePlus have been doing on their flagship phones for a couple of years. That is, we will get a large 50-megapixel sensor that will use pixel bins to create larger pixels. In theory, this will improve its ability to capture light, detail, and color. We're not worried about the lens. It should be great, especially with the Mari Silicon X NPU that Oppo used to great effect on the previous Find X flagship phone. We're wary of getting too excited about the secondary 8-megapixel camera. Previous phones with this dual camera setup have typically had a great primary camera and an ultra-wide that failed to deliver sharp and detailed images. We won't be able to judge it until we've used it properly, but history suggests that we shouldn't expect too much from that ultra-wide lens. On a brighter note, Oppo hasn't slapped a pointless 2-megapixel macro lens on here just to pad the numbers. In terms of 24-hour periods, we've discovered a lot to like about Oppo's approach to the Flip phone. The vertical cover display, we believe, is the main talking point, providing a much more useful exterior screen than what we've seen from Samsung or Motorola, even if it does look a little odd. We still believe the software could be improved to make better use of it, but it's a useful tool for quickly displaying information and notifications. The nearly crease-free display is fantastic. It appears rich and vibrant on first glance, and the gapless design when closed makes it appear really neat. Of course, we need more time with it to see how well the software is optimized for the folding display and whether the secondary camera is noticeably worse than the primary camera, but the Find N2 Flip is shaping up to be a very promising competitor to Samsung's trendy Flip phone.